Okay, we're going to start with the slab that we rolled out on the slab roller, and you can see that there's texture from that canvas on there, and you can see how like when you rub your finger on there, you can get rid of it. And so that's what we want to do, is to erase all of this so it doesn't compete with the rest of the design that you are putting on there. Okay, so I'm just going to use my fingers. This is really soft clay. It's okay if it leaves a little bit of like a groove, or like kind of how you can see that texture on there, because you're going to press so hard with this rolling pin that it's going to go away. Okay, I think it would probably be a good idea to put a paper towel underneath here so we for sure don't have this stick to the table, okay? Because sometimes that happens, especially with a lot of pressure. You can see my rolling pin. You have to press much, much harder than you anticipate, okay? You are trying to smash this into it, but the clay is a lot stronger than what you probably think too. And so you're just going to have to push down really firm and then keep your hands kind of on it. And you can see this start to like show up. You see that? So it transferred that design real quick, and you can see like my seam on these, which I could even erase if I wanted to, that I have like it rotated probably 2 times, right? That this is one rotation, and then you have like a half of one here and a half of one there. Okay, so pretty cool that you can transfer this really fast onto this piece of clay, and just think you can make like every single one exactly the same, right? Like every time you roll it, looks just the same. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my pattern on this. This is 4.5 by 12. Okay, and so you can just sit this down and cut it out wherever you want. You can try and like line this up with part of the design if you want to, but I wouldn't be too particular with it. And I'll show you, I mean, they're going to look good no matter what you do. So I'm going to take this paper clip, just that I pulled apart, and cut along the edge. Okay, and then I'm going to peel away just my scraps, and this can be recycled. And then I'm going to save this part for like the base. Okay, so I can set that aside for later. And so now I have this nice cutout slab. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to taper both of the edges. And so I'm going to take this tool and I'm going to cut just at a 45 right here and like cut this edge off. Okay, and I will show you why in a second. And then I'm going to flip the other way. Be careful, if you just hold this, you're going to let it like sag and change shape. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Cut a 45 off that. I'm going to use my slip and my popsicle stick, and then I'm going to use this to score. And so I can take this tool and just scratch. I'm trying to put a bunch of texture on this. This is scoring. I'm going to score even a little bit up here because I'm going to overlap this. Okay, so score that part. And then I'm gonna flip and do the same thing. Let me scoot this over on this side. Okay, so a little bit on that pattern, but the scoring is going to keep your clay together. You're gonna think of this kind of like Velcro. Clay will stay together when it is wet. But once it loses all its moisture, then it will fall apart. So when you put it in the kiln, it's going to lose its moisture. Okay, we're going to take slip, which you can just put on a popsicle stick so you don't have to stick your finger into the slip container, and dot this on. Okay, you don't want to smear this or rub this because it's going to erase what you just did. Okay, and flip. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and sit this upright. And let me scoot some things. And wrap this around. And you can see that these are going to, overlap. And since I trimmed some of that off, it's going to allow this to have less clay there. It's not going to be so thick of a seam, but we're going to overlap this, and you just have to press to make sure that those are sticking together. Okay, this is really soft. Okay, so be careful. You can flip it, look at the other side, and then you might have some extra slip. But that is going to be joined together. I am not going to worry about this seam right here. I'm just going to leave this and just clean up the texture of it, but I'm not going to try and like match it together. Okay, I'm just going to leave it. I can take my popsicle stick now, and let's see if you can see inside here. I don't know if turning the light on will help. And then you can take this and like blend this together. Since it's like cut at an angle, you won't need to reinforce this because we have like a good area to blend. We're just going to have to reinforce some other places. Okay, so that part is blended inside there. What I'm going to do next is I am going to, I'm going to turn this into a square. Okay, I'm going to keep this seam on one side, and I'm going to just use my hands to like change this circle into a square. Okay, so same thing. And you can kind of look at that and readjust where you feel like, and I'm not going to pinch them real like hard because we're going to remove some of this clay. I'm just going to get like rough areas of where this is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw some lines, some guidelines on where I feel like the corners will be. Okay, and then I'm going to take a ruler and I'm going to go on the sides, which again, let's see if we can see this. I don't know if this will be possible, but we'll see. There we go. So you can see this mark up here, okay, and then we are going to draw a line that's going to go down like 1.5 inches. So I'm going to mark this and take a line all the way to 3. Okay, and draw this line. Okay, so that's 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to just rotate and do the same thing to these other ones. And go to 3, and up. Same thing. 3 and up. So So these are 1.5 lines that go down. We'll talk about what these are going to be. Okay, so now that I have these marks that are on the side, we're going to turn these into darts. And that just means that we are cutting out a triangle to make the bottom of this part shrink in. Okay, so I'm going to hold this and make a triangle where I'm going to go on each side. Like this is the straight line is the center of the triangle. Do you see that? That makes sense? So I'm going to do the same thing real quick on the other sides. This is really like the distance from these that I'm cutting is probably only 1 inch, I would guess. You don't want to make them like real wide, okay, where you're like drawing huge triangles. But again, this is handmade, so it is not going to be absolutely perfect, but that's kind of the allure of it, is that it is made by you. Right? It has all of your design and your style with it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these triangles out. Okay, just with this tool, I mean, I can just cut right through them and take this piece out. Okay, so cylinder, and now removing these sections. And you can kind of look and see, are they all about the same like depth? You know, maybe you need to adjust one of them. But now you can take these and score and slip these seams. And it really is amazing how just this little bit of a taper from a big area to a small one changes like the whole feel of the pot. It just looks more, I think, sophisticated, looks more stylish, it looks more confident. I mean, it just changes, it's more dynamic. So it's amazing what just one little thing can do. It's that movement that you're making where it's not just like a straight line on the side, it's got some flow to its negative space. Okay, last one. And this is so fun to like put these together because you can see how this changes. Okay, so now I'm going to like push these together. Okay, and I'm gonna have to press, but you don't want to press too hard where you hurt your design. Okay, so press these together. Same thing over here. Press these together. And now you have a much smaller section down at the bottom than you did at the top. And if you look, and you look at this, look how different, let's put this looks than it did before where it was just a cylinder. Okay, I feel like this really changes it and makes it look a lot better than just that straight cylinder.